Hi friends, this is Selvajan here. Welcome to my networking channel. Hope all are doing good and safe. And today let us discuss the routing types. So what is routing? Routing works at the network layer where data is transmitted in the form of packets. And the header information carries the source and the destination IP address. And the good example is router and the process we call it as a routing. So today let us discuss about the routing type. And the first type is static routing, where the administrator has to manually add the routes into the routing table. So for that, he should aware of the entire inter networks, right? So each and every time a network is added or a network is removed, each and every time we have to manually add those routes into the routing table. So the benefit is there is no CPU and the processor consumption. So in case of static routing, we are manually using a static route to identify the destination or the remote network. So that is the advantage of static routing. And let us see how to configure a static route. So this is a very good example. I connected two different routers, and to this router I connected two different hosts, right? So this is in one network and this is in different network. So now let us see how to configure the remote network. So from this router perspective, how we are going to reach this remote network, that is 172.16.20.0. So what are the ways we can configure? First we have to configure IP route followed by the remote network, that is 172.16.20.0, and followed by the subnet mask and followed by the gateway. This is a gateway to reach this remote network, right? From this router perspective. So that's the reason I mentioned the gateway here. Similar way, from this router, I have to reach this remote network. How to configure is IP route followed by the remote network, that is 172.16.10.0 followed by the subnet mask, then the gateway to reach this remote network. So this is how I can configure the static route. So now let us understand the second type of routing, that is a dynamic routing. So instead of manually adding the routes into the routing table, in case of dynamic routing, we are using a routing protocol to identify the remote or the destination network. So in case of the dynamic routing, we can configure only the directly connected interfaces. So the router has two interfaces, right? So this assume this is a serial and this is a fast Ethernet. So only I have to configure this directly connected interfaces. After enabling the routing protocol, what happen automatically? This routing protocol will identify the remote or the destination network. So that is the benefit of dynamic routing over the static routing. And the disadvantage is, since we are using the routing protocol to identify the remote or the destination network, so it is going to consume the CPU and the processor. So that is the disadvantage of dynamic routing. And the advantage is, using this routing protocol, we can easily identify the remote or the destination network. And in case of the dynamic routing, only we have to configure the directly connected interfaces. And the third type of routing is the default routing. So in case of default routing, we will send the packets to the destination network which is not mentioned in the routing table. So each and every time the router receives the packet, always it will check for the destination address, right? So once it finds the destination address in the routing table, it will route the packet accordingly to the destination network. So in case there is no default network, what happen? It will simply drop the packet, right? So to avoid this scenario, what happen? Whenever it doesn't matches any packet, what happen? It will automatically go for the default route. So these are the ways we can configure the default route. So first is the IP route followed by 0.0.0, then this remote network, that is 192.168.1.2, or we can configure with the serial interface. And the third command is IP default network followed by this remote network. So these are the three ways we can configure the default routing. So default routing is used to send the packets to the destination network which is not in the routing table. In case if it doesn't match any packet in the routing table, automatically it will search for the default route, and as per the default route, it will route the packet to the gateway of the last result, that is the remote network. So this we call it as a default routing. So the summary is, static route, the administrator should be aware of the entire internet network and he has to manually add the routes into the routing table, and there is no bandwidth and the CPU consumption. But in case of dynamic routing, using the routing protocol which is used to identify the remote or the destination network, and in case of dynamic routing, we have to configure the directly connected interfaces, right? And the third thing is default routing, which is used to send the packets to the destination network which is not in the routing table. So that is the benefit of default routing. So these are three ways we can configure the default route. So in the coming slide, I am going to show how to configure the static and the default routing. I hope you enjoy this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe me for more videos. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.